Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the fact that one of the most efficient ways to get stronger at your 1 rep maxes, is to gain muscle. Now, people will want to argue this point. They'll want to argue about this person or that person. They're this size and weight and they lift this amount of weight. And while there are certainly people who match those categories, I think what they're failing to understand is that sometimes they're only good at 1 or 2 lifts, right? If you have a guy who's at a relatively light body weight, has short arms, and he's got a massive bench press, you might want to look closer. A lot of times what you're going to find is that that guy has enormous pecs. And he might be all pecs and triceps with chicken legs and be relatively lean, and he's got a big bench. But why does he have a big bench? Because the guy has enormous pecs and triceps. Those are the two biggest movers in the bench press for the most part. All right, 2 of the most important muscles in the bench press. And if you get them big enough, your bench is going to be really, really high. Especially the combination. And there are guys out there like that. And again, the shorter you are, the better your ratios are. That is a proven fact. That is a fact. And every coach knows this. This is understood. There's even studies on it. Okay? Every inch of height that you lose versus someone else, you're going to have the potential for way higher strength to body weight ratios. And I mean, it's massive. It is massive. A guy who is 5'4" versus someone who's 6 foot, if they both maximize their total potential, the 5'4" guy is going to have body weight multipliers on every one of his lifts that make the other guy look stupidly weak if you were to measure them that way. Okay? It's not even going to be close if they both actually get decently strong. Okay? It's just that simple. You're moving the weight a shorter distance. You have different moment arms. Okay? The tall guy can build more absolute strength usually. Short guy's going to have phenomenal relative strength. So we kind of come back out into this other category of most of you can't change your height. You can't change your genetics. Yes, there's a few genetic freaks and people out there, in Olympic lifting, and you're like, well, this guy's only 170 pounds and he squats 600 pounds. Well, he's not tall. He's very, very lean. Maximize his muscle potential, and the guy has freak genetics and probably insertion points in terms of his levers and everything, right? His tendons and things where they insert, he's probably got mild leverage advantages, and he's genetically elite for strength. Okay, 1 in a million genetics. That happens in countries like China that get selected. Okay, welcome to reality. However, if that guy were to put 10 pounds of muscle on, his lifts would skyrocket. And it's the same for you. Okay, you can't change your bone structure, and you cannot change your genetics. The majority of your strength potential is going to come from your muscle mass. This is why when we're dealing people at the same height, we can throw out the silly relative strength thing. Relative strength exists because people have different heights. That's why it exists. That's why we do it. And then obviously you want to maximize body composition for a weight class, but that's not going to change ratios and relative strength that much. Like if you're too fat and you diet down a weight class and are just as strong, you're going to be more competitive. Okay, you're going to be more competitive, but you're not necessarily going to lift any more weight. You're not going to lift any more weight because you dieted down. And then we kind of come back over to that point, though, of we know that mass moves mass. We know that mass moves mass. Now, there are certain lifts that benefit from extra body fat gain, and there are lifts that are hurt by body fat gain. And I'll name 2 big ones for you that most of you should grasp, because I've done plenty of videos explaining the biomechanics of why this happens. Usually gaining fat will make your squat increase. Usually gaining fat, if there's not accompanying muscle to go with it, will make your deadlift go down. Okay? A lot of people are not aware of that. But that is the reality, and there's a lot of biomechanics as to why. Fat can actually help your squat and decrease your deadlift. So what's the net result? Well, for a powerlifting total, it might not go up very much as a result of the fat gain till we get the bench in. The bench benefits from fat also. But all things considered, even though mass moves mass, muscle mass makes every lift go up. Okay? There is no lift in which you hypertrophy the primary movers that will not increase that lift. Okay? On a bench press, if you get your pecs, delts, and triceps and upper back bigger, your bench press will absolutely go up every single time. Every single time. Okay, if you get all the primary movers in a squat, a deadlift, an overhead press, a weighted chin up, I don't care what the lift is, if you get the muscles involved bigger, the lift will go up. Now, I'm not saying we don't need max lifts, because we need to practice heavy weight on the bar. If you want to maximize strength and you want to maximize intramuscular coordination, yes, we need to max out. Maxing out is critically important. Okay? It's something that I do every single week. You guys watch me. I vlog everything. But most of my training is really high rep. If you were to look at what I do every week and people were to add it all up, watch a full week's worth of my vlogs, or 3 weeks worth of my vlogs, count all the training volume that I do, what's it look like? Maybe 5% max lifts, about 15% speed work, right? And at least 80% repetition work. Reps, 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 reps. And when I say reps, I don't mean fives. 10s, 15s, 20s. Using a wide variety of exercises. Why? Because that's the fastest and most efficient way to put muscle on. And I'm not suggesting that's all a person should ever do to gain muscle. But if your goal is to get big quickly and you're not doing a pretty significant amount of high rep exercises and quite a bit of exercise variation, okay, if you only do one exercise that hits a muscle at any point through the training week, all right, you're not maximizing your muscular potential. You're really not trying that hard to get big. Okay, if you don't do anything over 6 reps and you claim that you're trying to stack on muscle, you're not trying very hard. Right? We need to do these things. We need the training volume, and we need the rep work, and we need the lighter weight work. And the reason is that we need the hypertrophy. And I'm not saying you can't hypertrophy with really heavy weight. I mean, some of these lifts are pretty heavy right there. I mean, I'm doing 275 for 20 on a good morning there. It's not light. But the point is, we have to get the volume in. We have to. Otherwise, you're going to shortchange your potential. I mean, you could make the argument, well, I could just lift really heavy and just use a bunch of drugs to get my size. You could. And plenty of guys have done that. But if you actually trained to get really big on top of it, wouldn't you have an even better total? Wouldn't you lift even more weight? Okay? It's really, really hard to do enough training volume and recover from it to grow doing really heavy work, like really low reps. Okay, you get beat up. You have to do way too many sets. It leaves you sore, leaves you hurting, leaves your joints hurting. The easiest way to get bigger is to make sure that you're doing a large amount of training volume that you can recover from, picking exercises that you can recover from. Okay? Doesn't mean we don't need to max out. Doesn't mean we don't need to max out. Doesn't mean we don't need to do speed work. Doesn't mean we don't need to do other things. But realistically speaking, if you are trying to get really strong, you need to get really big. Really big being relative. Obviously, big is relative to your frame. It's relative to your genetics. It's even relative to, what you choose to or not to put into your body. These are all important factors. But at the end of the day, there is not a single one of you out there who your strength would not go up if you put on a few pounds of extra muscle. If you put on 5 pounds of straight up extra muscle tissue onto your frame, right now, particularly if you put it in the right places, your lifts will go up significantly. Okay, when I talk about putting 5 pounds of muscle on, I don't mean that your bench is going to go up 5 pounds and your squat's going to go up 10 pounds. No, I mean, we're going to expect 10, 20 pounds on your bench, 30, 40, 50 pounds on your squat from that. Okay, that's what you should expect. If it's 5 pounds of real muscle tissue, that's the fastest way to get your lifts up. That's the best way to get your lifts up. Because once you're peaking. Once you're maxing out, that's it. As long as you keep maxing, you're still going to be good at maxing. You're going to have trained that. And the only time maxing is going to increase your lifts is when you quit maxing for a while and you lose the ability to do it. But if you're maxing out regularly, you're not necessarily gaining strength from it. All you're doing is testing strength and you're maintaining the ability to lift heavy. Okay, but if you want to significantly increase your lifts, you've got to put muscle on. Ideally in the right places, the best places for those lifts. But muscle in general is going to give you more strength potential. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.